We all know bonsai is full of challenges. You get loads of joy, you get loads of heartache. But the one thing we do want to do is make sure we start off with the right species. You know, I've struggled with juniper, and Jelle of Growing Bonsai has helped me immensely over the last year. But today, we're going to talk about why these junipers here versus some ones that you're going to see in a minute are vastly different.
Stop, it's not working.
Hi, it's Xavier, welcome to my bonsai retreat. And do you know what? We are going to deal with the #1 bonsai topic. Have you got bonsai tunnel vision? Because in a recent video and discussion I had with Jelle of Growing Bonsai, we talked about the problems of this very issue. What is it? What can I do about it? Is it fatal? Now, if that's the sort of subject that you think, what on earth is he talking about? I need to hang around and find out. Well, stick through for the credits, because it's going to be interesting and it's definitely going to make your bonsai better. And the only way you'll know how is keep watching, especially if you want to know what's going to happen with this stone. But maybe not in this video. More of that later. I'll have to go get that, I suppose.
Hey, welcome everybody. Xavier isn't there. This is Jelle. This is Growing. No, this is Xavier's Bonsai Retreat.
Hey,
and today
what's going on?
I just want to do a video on tunnel vision because your videos.
Are they fighting?
Sorry.
Tunnel vision, this is not... Is this about tunnel vision? When you opened up on this and stayed viewing, what was I talking about? I was talking about don't make things hard on yourself by picking the wrong juniper, and we were going to talk about that.
Well, I want tunnel vision.
Should we do both?
Today, on Growing Bonsai, tunnel vision and picking the right... No, this is not... Today, on the Bonsai Retreat, Xavier and Jelle, tunnel vision and...
The right bonsai species and juniper.
Picking the right bonsai species. Why make it harder than you need to?
Sounds like a good plan to me. Let's crack on with it. First things first. Are we or are we not in the Bonsai Retreat?
Yeah.
Can we? If I come over to you, will I be sitting in your seat by the wall in the black?
To be honest,
you don't want me over there. Actually, this is the base of why I say I hate juniper, because I get this floppy growth and it hangs down, and every time we look at juniper videos, especially ones that Jelle do or anyone, they have this ability to, they wire them up and you get these lovely tight foliage pads. And I keep getting all this sort of spiky growth and I never know where to put the wire on, and end result is it never looks like what I want.
So why do you get this spiky growth? Do you know?
Well, I've heard a term called juvenile growth.
Yeah. This is an old tree. Why do you get juvenile growth on this?
Well, basically because you've done something to the tree and its response to it is to produce new growth. It's actually in distress.
So basically what the tree is telling you is like, hey, there's something happening, I don't get enough energy, and I want to grow. I want to grow stronger. It creates these nice spiky foliage and it gets ugly. But what it also does, the new growth that comes out, these scales, because they will come eventually, these branches will be quite long, because it's still growing to the light, finding space to get nutrients. So it stays open and floppy. And it's funny that you asked me to look at these trees that have floppy foliage, and then we pulled a couple of them out. It's like, I don't think it's all that bad for this species. What did you change in your care routine for your junipers this year?
It would have been funny, to be fair, if the camera was rolling then, I think even you guys would have chuckled, because Jelle said, all right, so what is the problem here? And I looked at the ones that I'd put on the chair and actually looked at them for the first time, not with my blinkered tunnel vision, i.e. these are never going to be any good. And I realised I had all of what you'd say right now is, hey, what are you complaining about? This is lovely growth, not this ropey stuff here. And the difference is, as I said, well, when we talked about it over a beer, realised that every year I'd been trying to cut and create pads. I think this probably demonstrates best what I mean. All of this is this needle, well, I thought it was a needle juniper, to be perfectly honest. This is all juvenile growth. It's happened as a result of what I did with this juniper. And if you watched my video last year, you'll know that I got hit by the red eastern cedar, and the advice was to remove all affected branches, burn them. And I didn't want to throw it away. So all of these have been removed, and I wired some of these branches down and then I just left it. And look what the tree's done. All of this, I mean, in one way it's really, really positive, because this is the tree's response saying, I'm not dying on you. Definitely not. I'm going to show you all this growth. All of it is juvenile growth.
Yeah, very fair points. And I think if you just look at these trees and you listen to Xavier talking about the junipers and how he's having difficulties, if you now take an appropriate species that is often used, this is a Chinese juniper of the variety Itoigawa, and naturally it grows these very compact bushels. You see this? It has just been tip pruned once, and then it's created this pattern. You don't need to do anything. So over the last couple of days we've been working on this, we've been wiring it out in the hope that these nice fat pulses form here as well. It just happens by itself with the right species, and on these that's much harder. So it is not a care routine that creates the floppy foliage in itself. This is just the denseness that you get. You can then start tip pruning these and it will be getting a little bit more complex, but this is impossible to reach with that foliage.
So if you're a beginner, and you know, in many sense for juniper I have been, if I want to get the drive and the success early on, then it's much better that I choose something like a Chinese juniper or this Itoigawa. And I know the first thing people say is, Zav,
does that mean it costs a lot of money?
And that was my thinking as well. But you know what? I've spent the money I spent on 4 substandard species. I'm still nowhere near it. I was more upset. And when Jelle first saw me, he's like, "You've got some great trees. Why are you so down on yourself?" He says, "Just pick the right species. Don't make it harder."
And this might actually be a form of tunnel vision that some people have. You go for a tree that's affordable, or it's big. It got from a garden, so you have a very big trunk. But the foliage is not so good. So right, basically down in the garden you have some of these red eastern cedars, and that has been the complaint all the time, that they don't develop, that they're not compact. You try to flip them around, you got them as a very nice big fat trunk species.
Yeah.
Pride and joy in your garden, nice and big. But you work on them, I'm sure you've seen, there's in the US, there's this Ryan Neal, and he creates these gorgeous bonsai. But you look at the foliage, and either trees are massive with very big pads, that works with this foliage because scale wise it fits, or they're completely open with just tiny little bits of green. That means that constantly you have to prune them back.
Yeah.
So yes, you can make a very good looking bonsai. It's a lot easier if the trunk is big and the tree is big, or if you have the time, then you can maybe maintain them, but it is a lot more work. It's much harder to make a good looking tree out of this sort of foliage than out of an Itoigawa, for instance.
So really, it's not the red eastern cedar or a different variety. I mean, they've got San Joseo, whatever. There's lots of varieties of junipers, we know that. And, you know, you can make bonsai out of them. But if you're certainly starting in it and you're wanting to see results that encourage you to keep going so that you can get better with these more difficult species, then, again, understand what it is you're buying and invest perhaps in that Chinese juniper, or I think Blau is
junipers,
or the Nana.
Just in general, the Chinese junipers are pretty good.
Yeah.
Squamata works. It's a permanently needle foliage, but it requires a very strong prune back every single year.
Yeah.
But looking at trees in bonsai trade helps, but also trees that naturally grow these compact tufts. So you see a tree in a nursery and it's nice and dense and green, then probably it's much better than something that grows in the garden as a very big shrub.
Now, I interrupted you rudely, didn't I?
Well, you interrupted me. Whether it's rudely, that's cultural.
And now for something completely different.
I see you staring at it, but why have you selected this one out for tunnel vision? I don't, you know, I think it's wired out. Where's the... Truthfully, I don't see tunnel vision in this one, so hang around and let's see to understand why it is.
And if you actually do know why I picked this tree, pop it in the comments, because I think it's quite glaringly obvious why I'm choosing this tree. But, you know, tunnel vision. What's your plan?
What I've looked at is I've picked the best front based on the width of the roots and how I think it's going to work best. I put in some movement in it because we've got a big gap here where there's nothing, so I thought I'll move and bend. I'm going to create a pad on the left side, put some lower pads on the right side. I've got this little one here.
What's the plan with that?
Well, really, I was looking at that being, it's almost a sacrifice.
So that's going to come off.
That's going to come off probably.
Yeah.
And I've put a tension because I'm going to bring this further down. And I just see it's the classic. We've got an apex up here, a little back here, and we create that classic sort of bonsai that you see.
So can I be Dutch with you?
Be Dutch with me.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good.
I'm just going to say something that might be a little bit... You're making a cookie cutter tree.
A cookie cutter tree.
You've looked at a book and you've looked at a tree and you're like, okay, this is what a tree should be. It should have a branch. It should have a branch. It should have a top. It should have a back branch. This is a perfect example of how you make a bonsai.
Yeah, thanks. See, you said it's a perfect example of how to make a bonsai.
A boring bonsai. You don't want to make boring bonsai. I know your trees. You look for something exceptional. So when you say that you want to remove this, I'm like, no, keep this. But basically, why I want to bring this out, it's not so much about the design of the tree.
Right.
It's more about how you think about trees. And I think that challenging each other on what can you do with a tree is more important than what you actually do with the tree.
It's always a good idea to get another opinion.
There's a point I want to bring out on that one, and I've been spoilt because I've got Jelle here, and there's many of us, and I am in that category. We're nowhere near a bonsai club. And for this, it's often good if you've got someone who's at least at your level, if not probably a bit better, who can challenge you and look at stuff objectively. But you're saying to me that really it's nice to have someone else, actually more than one person, looking at your designs and going, what are you doing with that, mate?
And it is not about is it right or is it wrong.
To repeat this message, press 7.
And it is not about is it right or is it wrong.
Yeah.
But having somebody who just reflects on your ideas and challenges your ideas, makes you think about what am I actually doing with the tree and why. We all know Xavier loves his interesting trees. We all know his introduction bonsai, which looks very different from what you normally see. So if he creates trees like this, then I challenge him because it looks like a very nice pine. One challenge that you have, of course, here you have the nice wire on your pine, but this branch is now coming out, going down and going up. What I would like with a pine, I myself, I'd like a branch coming down and out and up in a more fluid, hanging down and trying to grow up. You can never do that with the wire here. So these sort of things, you are working on your tree, you're having the design in your head, and that's the same for you. You work on it, you put it out, you look at it and you're like, this is really getting along well, it's nice. And then you might have somebody come in your garden and they're nice, they don't say anything. They walk away and they talk to their friends like, oh, I've seen these trees. Have you seen what he's done there? But you're never challenged yourself. Whereas if I challenge you now, you look at it like, okay, yeah, that's a point. I don't agree with the point, or I might not want to implement it, but at least you are thinking about, okay, I could do it differently. So it's not about, you say you need to get somebody maybe who's more experienced, but it doesn't even need to be. A person who's seen 20 real trees, they look at a tree, even if they don't know anything about bonsai, like, but that's not how a tree grows. Why is there this branch? And that makes you think about the design. And that's, I think, a little bit where you go with tunnel vision. Don't you have any other trees that we could have a look at a design? Because we can rework this now, but that's maybe something nice for another video for you at some other point. But I think there's more examples in your garden where you have a design, and if we look at it, we're like,
I've actually got just the tree, and
not a juniper, right?
It's not a juniper because guess what? We all love Japanese maple, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Well, let's go do a Japanese maple, shall we?
Wow. And what sort of Japanese maple? I like this. How did you get this?
In the early days when I used to go around all the nurseries and I'd find all the abandoned sick trees, and I got this for £2.99 in 20.
And it had this nice curve and everything.
No, it was absolutely dead straight with the big foliage ball at the top.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the first thing I did immediately, I said, well, I'm going to make this into a full cascade.
All right.
So I pulled it right down and just anchored it in and left it for 3 years. And then I got distracted because here there were two branches going off that never got taller than this. And I kept thinking, do you know what, I'm going to grow these. I got really focused on it actually, that I've got to make sure that these grow because this could be the future of the tree. It's such beautiful foliage and it's got such ramification. So in the end I got to the thing, this all died off this year. I thought, I know, it's easy, it's literatum. Well, I asked someone else about it, but I suppose I got tunnel vision definitely on these. These
well, and I think the friend that you asked suggested maybe you can put it on a rock, right? Like something that sits high on a cliff, exposed to the wind, and And we were just talking about this tree, and the thing that I noticed, if you put it on a rock, you put a lot of emphasis on the lower trunk and on the roots. That become very visible because that is part of the feature that you want to show off. But this is a grafted Japanese maple, so it has a bit of a swelling here. It's not that obvious because the trunk is nice and aged and silvery. So I looked at the tree and my first initial response was this, and that was actually before I knew you had considered a semi-cascade. And for me the reason is there's no branches on this side. And by tilting it over, now you have a nice spreading canopy with a nice top and a tree that grows quite elegantly aside, fitting a Japanese maple. Again, it is just an option. And I think the nice thing, you ask all these people over and you just put trees in front of them, what do you think? Really opens up your horizon on the different development pathways that are there. I think that's a very, very good thing to do if you're trying to grow bonsai. You can still say, I'm going to do something very different, and I'm going to tilt it all the way like this. And then you're almost back to your original idea. Semi-cascade.
And I suppose part of the issues, I don't know whether it's tunnel vision or not, is I sit there, well look, I know the roots aren't going to be fit for that. The roots just aren't going to be. But how do I know? Why have I got myself fixed in this idea that that's impossible? Because there's no way, the root's going to be the wrong way.
So what's the takeaway message here?
You've got to ask people about your trees, and you've got to be open and ready to listen to what they say. Because normally I know when I see someone's tree, I'll go, in my head, something twings, there's something. And I like to be feel comfortable, say, there's something about this that I think isn't sitting right or is different, and that should be enough to anyone who's seriously interested in growing bonsai to say, what, and to explore and go, hang on, there is something wrong. And what you said and what Andy said made me go, yeah, I've always felt there's something, but I haven't known what to do. I've been too fixed on my idea. I haven't known where to go. And so consult people. Don't be afraid. If you haven't got clubs, groups, get people in. Get them to actually seriously go, even if they don't know about bonsai. Is there something about this that... And it's amazing the ideas that come. I mean, in this visit, Jelle, that you've been here, there's been so much discussion about the trees. And
Getting a little tired, actually, of trees.
To be fair, he's bolstered me up no end, because I've come away from what's been a really full 2 days, and I'm really actually quite optimistic and really enthusiastic about what I've done. I've recognised that I do bonsai the slow way, and slow way is not necessarily a bad way.
And I think that one thing that people need to recognise, and you have your trees and you have a person over and they make a comment on your tree, and it might come across as very harsh, but in fact that means they're interested in the tree. They're asking you about what do you want to do with it, or have you considered this alternative. That's not saying I don't like what you've done. They are just trying to help you think, have you seen the alternative option as well, or are you focusing on your own tunnel vision for the tree? And just having this brainstorm with people who come over, even people who have no idea about bonsai,
Yeah.
might give you new ideas to create a tree that's much more interesting than what you have now. And that doesn't mean that the tree beforehand was not good. It might just have become something, you've seen so many pictures, you recreate a picture that is in your mind instead of something that is completely new.
Okay, we could go on and show loads and loads of trees about that. I think we've hammered home the point. You know what, with Juniper, don't make it more difficult unless you're happy to. Pick a species that already has the characteristics that allow you to then just display your bonsai skills, do the bonsai. It's a lot easier. I think what we're saying that in the first bit. Now the second bit that Jelle brought in about the tunnel vision, do you know what? It's an excellent. That's 2 big takeaways you've got from this video. And I really want to highlight one thing. I keep going on and on and on about put comments in. Tell me what...
Is this the front of your tree?
Of course it's the front. Have you seen that majestic deadwood?
How about rotating it a little bit and creating a new top? Wouldn't that look good?
And I think we've just proved the point. I was actually tunnel vision on the deadwood, and moving it a few degrees and betting that someone else has come up with a suggestion. I'm looking at it now, I can see it at the camera there, and I think that looks 100% better.
Just keep in mind, now you have deadwood pointing towards you, but we'll figure that one out as well.
That could be in a future video. So if you want to see that future video, obviously hit bell notifications, subscribe. Is it down there?
Yeah. Hit subscribe down there.
Please, please, please share on social media. That's the best you can do for me. But even better, if you see something about my trees, I don't mind if you have no experience. If there's something niggling you, put it in there. I know you're not going to insult me. I know you do it because you want to help. It does help. You've seen just then how Jelle's helped. And it's not going to be much to rectify that.
I think that's all for now. This was Jelle from Growing Bonsai. Jelle at the Bonsai Retreat by Xavier. Keep growing bonsai.
And always remember, when you wake up each morning, smile, because there's always something good to be happy about, even if you're feeling a bit down. That's what bonsai are for me. So, happy bonsai and God bless.
And see you next time on Tuesday. Breakfast for bonsai. Bonsai for breakfast?
You've done this before, haven't you?